I've read through my girlfriend's journaling and it disturbed me. I've been dating this girl for a little over a year, long distance. We see each other on a monthly basis, a week, 2 at a time, and everything felt good outside of occasional overthinking and anxiety on her behalf. Other than that, we've communicated properly, not a single fight with raised voices. Conflict is resolved by a compromise and conversation. It's as good as it gets. She met most of my friends, including female friends, and I've met hers too. As I was visiting her recently, I was asking to see her notes on something work-related. We more or less share a professional field, and as she pointed at a black notebook in the direction of the bedroom, well, I found a black notebook in her bedroom. As I opened it, it became apparent it was her journaling notebook, and the crap I've seen there made me feel uneasy. It's covered page to page with resentment towards me, where every time I would go out with my friends, she'd assume I'm cheating or, to quote, with another bitch, when my friends are at my house, we'd listen to their playlists on my account, and she'd track that on Spotify and assume I'm cheating because it's normally not the music I listen to. It's such a nightmare fuel, because I could have placed every record to a situation where I was having a beer with my male friend, not once gave a reason to doubt me and over-communicated every time, including changes of locations, people I was with, what time I got home with audio messages. As in, I know I haven't cheated, and those notes made me feel like there's a larger mental distress at hand. Now I'm stuck, because on the surface, the relationship is great, but the level of distortion of facts that's happening inside her brain is alerting. I delivered my friend his last meal. For backstory, I'm 20 male. I'm a delivery driver for 2 major food delivery companies and have been doing so for a bit over a year. With COVID happening and me just getting my license, it was a perfect gig as everyone was ordering from home and I could work on my own time, being my own boss. One of my friends, I'll call him Justin, 22 male, knew I worked for them, and occasionally we'd try to match orders, where he'd place an order to a restaurant and I'd wait to see if I could get his order request so I could pick it up and bring it to him. He always left a good tip, and most of the time surprisingly the orders did come to me, which was great. I mean, a good paying order and getting to see a close friend. It doesn't get much better than that. Justin was your typical adrenaline junkie, owning 3 motorcycles of different styles and a sedan that he transformed from a mom car to one that could outrun many sports cars. But he was always respectful of those who weren't into that. Never weaves in traffic, only did pulls when he was the only vehicle around, and never got angry when others weren't so kind on the roads, always wearing a smile, and mixed that with his long blonde hair. He was a ray of sunshine. 4 days ago was no different. He sent a text asking if I'd try and get his order. Of course I said I would, and with our good success rate I got his order. He bought way more food than he normally does, something like what you'd hear John Wayne Gacy order for his last meal. I'm talking surf and turf steak and lobster, loaded fries, chicken wings, a large lemonade and a chocolate shake. Definitely gonna have some leftovers out of that. So I pick up the order and head on to his house. He's outside working on his new toy, a Yamaha R1, still stock and never used. He was putting on a new exhaust because he always admired that beefy growl from a new exhaust, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't love it as well. I pull up to the curb, hand him the ginormous bag of cholesterol, and we talk about the bike, life, and anything under the sun, then had a big bro hug and I went back to working. About 9 p.m. I head home, taking my usual long route home to take time unwinding, listening to music and enjoying the night on roads sparsely ridden on. I got into a highway that leads almost to my neighborhood, just a straight shot, and I see loads of bright lights ahead. They had to be 2 to 3 miles away, but there were so many they illuminated the low clouds above, blue, red, white, all emergency vehicles. I approached with a little bit of traffic accumulated, moving past pretty slowly, being nosy like everyone else trying to see what happened. At first I just saw a white sedan with its hood almost split in half, and assumed they had hit one of the streetlights, but there wasn't any streetlight damage anywhere. I jokingly said to myself, I hope Justin wasn't involved, knowing he never came down this road for anything. But that quickly became my fear being recognized. Blue bits of plastic were strewn on the pavement like glass, the same color as Justin's new bike, and then one of his shoes in a field off the road. My mind didn't try to make excuses in thinking it was someone else because it knew. I just knew. I never saw the wreckage of the bike, but seeing the front end of the sedan all but confirmed Justin wasn't alive. And I was right. I screamed in that car in the most guttural yell I've ever produced. Apparently loud enough the firefighters standing around heard it and looked at me like I was some zombie. My friend was gone and I knew it. I had to pull over, practically blind from tears blocking my vision and my head shaking violently. A cop walked up asking who I was, and I explained to him in maybe 2 sentences worth of words spread out over 2 minutes of sobs and gasps. He explained what they believe happened, but I didn't hear a word from him. Everything he said shot right out the other ear. The only sound was ringing. I later found out that he was in fact alone on that side of the highway, doing a pull at what they assume was 120 plus miles per hour, and the sedan, with no headlights or any lights on, made an illegal left turn to get into a neighborhood, which made him drive going the wrong way for a couple yards. Justin couldn't react and the impact practically made the bike explode, and the sedan looked like a semi had hit it. The sedan driver was in critical condition but is expected to survive, somehow, and the impact took away Justin immediately. They don't even think his brain could have processed everything going on before the collision. His gear was almost shredded, but it was the only thing keeping him together. I'm not sure what to make of life now. I drove by that spot yesterday and the bent street signs, shredded grass, and tire marks left behind a memory I want to forget. And people drove past it like a normal day, because to them, it was. His phone was destroyed, but they're trying to get into the chips or whatever to get the information from it. But as far as my friends and I know, I was the last person to talk to him, at least face to face. I like to believe that God or whatever is out there gave us that chance to say goodbye. The last words we shared were the usual "I love you brother" and a tight hug because we always knew life wasn't certain. And only an hour and a half later I would never be able to hug him again or let him know that the brotherly love was as real gets. I've tried talking to him the last few days while I'm alone, and maybe I'll get a sign one of these days to let me know he's okay. I'm not sure why I'm sharing this. Maybe it's a need to release and vent. Maybe it can be educational, or maybe just to occupy my mind for a few minutes typing it out. I don't know. But if anything can be learned from my friend, it's to enjoy life in every moment, whether it's good or bad, because in life there is everything you've ever known, your dreams, aspirations, goals, friends, family, everything we know is here. Don't let that go to waste. Always hug your homies. Always let those you love know that you love them. And don't ever say goodbye to someone until you both feel the love reciprocated. You never, and I mean never, know when your or someone else's time to leave is. I love you brother. My wife gave birth to a black baby that clearly isn't mine, and I'm divorcing her, but I'm worried about the relationship between my two kids and their new half-sister. A month ago, my wife gave birth to a black baby girl. We're both white, so she was forced to admit that the child was a result of a one-night stand last year. I've started divorce proceedings, although we're still living together for now. Between our two boys, aged 2 and 4, I've had paternity tests for them and they came back positive. Her infant daughter and her having lost her job, living together as amicably as possible until the divorce is settled is an unfortunate necessity. Naturally, I have no ill will towards the baby, and I've been disgusted by some of the comments I've heard from family members, friends, co-workers and others, all who seem to be fixated on the racial angle of this, as if the most salient part of this isn't that my wife cheated, but that she cheated with a black man and that the baby is black. What really worries me is that my two sons might pick up on these narratives. They're too young to really understand what's happening now, but I'm worried that as they grow to understand the situation that they might grow to resent their half-sister for breaking up their parents' marriage, and worse that their resentment might express itself in a racist fashion, under the influence of the aforementioned racist narratives. Any thoughts on how I should try to influence my sons away from that perspective? It probably doesn't help that we live in a suburb with very few black people and their half-sister is really the only black person my children know. Update: the big takeaway for me was that if I'd need to lead by example here, not excluding her in any way because of her paternity so that she and my sons would see her as a full member of the family, also that I need to be more active in confronting the bigoted and ignorant nonsense I've been hearing, and teach my sons to do the same to protect their sister. I've spoken to some of those responsible since and made clear my feelings on this, and that she is to be treated as a family member, and that if I ever find out that they've said things like that to my sons or their sister that they won't be allowed around us anymore. I've spoken to my wife about this, and we're more or less on the same page. She's been begging me to forgive her and not go through the divorce, but that's not going to happen. Even if I didn't consider the cheating unforgivable, I just don't feel any love for her anymore, other than a platonic affection for her as the mother of my children. My sons are handling this as well as can be expected. The 4-year-old doesn't fully understand, but is upset by the change in the household. Thankfully he's easily distracted. The 2-year-old is thankfully too young to comprehend what's going on, but has definitely picked up on how withdrawn his mother has become. They're both fascinated with their new little sister, so there's that silver lining. My wife on the other hand isn't in good shape at all. She was depressed even before the birth, and now with everything our divorce, her infidelity being revealed and the backlash from family and friends, PPD, and the exhaustion from raising an infant she's barely functional, she's seeing a therapist, and I've been pressuring some of our family and friends to be supportive of her because even if they think she deserves it, her current state is making it harder for me and our children. It's become very obvious to me that even after the divorce is finalized we're going to have to live together for a while longer. She's in no shape to be taking care of 3 kids without someone else around to support her, and I'm not willing to deprive her of her sons by seeking sole custody. It's also too difficult financially, since she's lost her job. As for the baby girl, she's healthy and fairly easy by baby standards. Since I've been helping care for her, I've bonded with her and I've discussed the possibility of adopting her with my wife. She can't contact the father, as the only thing she knows about him is his first name, and given our co-parenting situation it feels like adopting her as my daughter would be the best outcome for all involved. However, there's been a wrench thrown in that plan. It was brought to my attention that there may be a way of finding the baby's father, namely by having her DNA tested by Ancestry DNA. If the father or one of his relatives has also taken the test, we may be able to find him through their DNA match database. If I'm being completely honest, I'm not happy about this. I've already started to think of the baby girl as my daughter, and having him in our lives would massively complicate the family dynamic. Plus we live in Seattle and she met him in Philadelphia, so God knows how they'd even make it work if he wanted to be the kid's father. However, I recognize that this is a selfish reaction. If we have a chance of finding her biological father we owe it to her do so, if only so that she has access to her paternal medical history and so that she can have a relationship with him if and when she chooses to do so. I've read a few accounts by children raised by non-biological parents and a common thread is their desire to meet their lost biological parent, so that's that. We've ordered an Ancestry DNA kit for her, and I guess we'll decide our next steps once we get the results back in a couple of months. My sister managed to ruin 2 families' lives with her selfishness. Not content with just tearing apart my family, my youngest sister has managed to destroy the hearts and souls of 2 families. Gross vehicular manslaughter while intoxicated, 2 counts of it. She was so wasted that she doesn't even remember leaving the party that night. She was out partying again, no idea why. She failed nearly every single one of her university classes. She's never needed an excuse though, College for her has just been a free pass to party and run up a credit card bill. My parents have sheltered her from the minute she could walk and have never made her face a single consequence for her actions. The last year has shown she has no motivation to work or do anything really, just guilt my parents for money with promises of doing better next time. We knew she was driving while intoxicated. She crashed the car my dad got her into a pole high on MDMA last fall. I told my parents they need to take the car back. I told her she needed to stop driving if she was high or drunk. I begged everybody to do something before she hurt someone. A mother and her child, that's the lives she ended up taking. I've heard she was married and had a young baby at home as well. My sister doesn't understand what she's truly done, that, or she doesn't care. My parents have convinced her that everything will be fine. Again, because they don't understand, or care. They think because she's 19 they won't throw her in prison. Because she's never been caught breaking the law before she'll get a slap on the wrist or something. That she can bat her lashes and fake cry she'll avoid the big girl consequences for the mistake she made. She's looking at 20 years for this. I won't be sticking around to watch this courtroom drama play out. Me and my brother are cutting contact today. My brother-in-law is convinced that I'm in love with him. Pretty much what the title says. I've never posted on here before, but I do like to read the stories sometimes. So, a few months ago, my sister, let's call her Diana, got married to my brother-in-law, who we'll call Mike. I'm the youngest of my 3 siblings, Diana, and my brother, who we'll call Carlos. I came out as gay when I was 14, and my immediate family, my parents and siblings were all supportive. My extended family, uncles, aunts, cousins, and grandparents are less accepting, so I don't tend to be as out and open around them. I graduated high school and started college 2 years ago when I was 17. I go to the same college that my sister is doing grad school at, and to save costs, I've been staying with her and her then fiancé at their apartment. Mike had always been really nice and I was happy that my sister was with a nice guy. My siblings and I have always been super close, and that closeness didn't go away when I started living with Diana, so I would often end up hanging out with them and their friends sometimes. The semester just ended for the 2 of us, and we all went home this weekend to stay with my parents. We had a big family dinner, during which Mike kept making little jokes about me liking older guys. My boyfriend is 23, and how he would try to keep me away from him and his buddies. Me and my siblings questioned him about these jokes he was making, until he finally stopped making them. That was last night. This morning, my siblings and my parents went on a hike, which is a family activity that we usually enjoy thanks to us living close to the woods. I slept in and no one wanted to bother me, so they went without me. I figured that everyone had gone. But when I was eating my cereal in the living room and watching TV, Mike came out of the kitchen and sat next to me. I was surprised to see him, as I figured that he would have gone on the hike, but I guess not. He started by apologizing for making fun of me, and then said that it was just a nervous tick of his when he didn't want to talk about something serious. He said that it was wrong of him to joke about my crush on him. I was super confused and asked for clarification, and he said that he knew about the crush I have on him, which I don't. I asked him why he would think that, and he cited a few things that he took as me liking him. 1. That I would always hang out with him and Diana. 2. That I chose to live with them instead of dorms. 3. That he barely knew my boyfriend. And 4. That I didn't bring my boyfriend to their wedding. I tried to tell him that he was insane and that none of that meant I liked him, and they all had real explanations, but he just insisted that I was just trying to cover up the fact that I was in love with him. That was a few hours ago. I haven't told anyone in my family this yet, and I didn't have lunch with my family since I've had plans to be out with high school friends all day. One friend suggested that I post this here, so I guess that's why I'm doing this. I'll be sure to update if anything serious happens. Thanks for reading.